So why is it that loudness hardly ever works? I'm going to put it into analogies. So let's say you got this big ship on the ocean, right? You feel sturdy. You feel like you can see everything around you. But the problem is that out of anger, we bust up our own ship. And now what happens is we're trying to hang on to the debris. Yet when you're looking down at the ocean, because yes, you broke your ship, everybody's looking at your ship all broken up, right? Now they're looking down at your ship. They see the debris. What they don't see is the sharks underneath. You know, the more debris there is, the less you see the sharks. So your anger busts up your ship, hiding the sharks. Now, out of anger, we see a lot of things: desperation, fear. What was the other thing? Shit. Advocating. See, advocating becomes a powerful opinion, especially out of anger. When you advocate, you know, for something you've been through, something somebody else has been through, you're going to have a lot of opposition because, well, in every story are a lot of different details. So people are afraid to cling to patterns that they have before. That's why connection is so hard to find these days, is because everybody is trying to advocate for something. So when you speak in monotone, kind of like I am, you know, the calm temper, you know, not showing your fear, not showing, you know, advocation, but rather telling your perspective is different. That doesn't bust your ship up. So then when people look down, they see your ship, they see the sharks, you know, but obviously there's sharks that are deeper, much more adaptive to that environment. So think of it this way. You take a bunch of sailboats in the ocean and you tie a string to each one of them. Now, those strings are crisscrossed between them, right? Now, what happens is when advocation turns into anger, because we're pattern recognizers, you know, we sense patterns of desperation, we sense patterns of fear, we sense a lot of patterns. And now each one of those sailboats is a person in, let's say, a small collective, right? I'm talking a small group. You know, let's say they're all advocating for the same thing, right? Now, because each story is different and each person wants something different, they want a different outcome. They want, you know, different things. So when everybody is advocating for the same thing, the problem becomes the reward. You know, it's like being a group of pirates. You know, the captain splits the treasure, but if they don't feel that their amount that they were given was enough, then they're going to start changing their perspective to advocate for themselves rather than the group. So now these sailboats, all it takes is for one to pull away, and that line snaps. So then all the other lines snap, and then what happens? Everybody's split while the sharks keep on swimming. You know, there is a very powerful magnetic force sometimes in advocating, you know, for what is that, abortions and stuff like that. It's like, are you going to say that a stripper with HIV that's pregnant shouldn't have an abortion? I mean, I think about that and I think about all the possible stories that could be behind it, but I'm looking at the HIV. Now, am I going to advocate that people with HIV should have abortions? No, because it doesn't really affect me. So why should I feel the need to advocate it unless I want attention? So basically what I'm saying is we advocate through a perspective where we believe what is right and what is wrong. But that's why cultures throughout history decided to culminate the herd, or cultivate the herd, is because there's too many opinions, too many perspectives, too much of this, too much disease, too much everything, too many resources being used up. So each person would have advocated for themselves, saying, well, I believe we should do this differently, not because it benefits the group, but because it benefits them. And when they don't get what they desire, that leads to desperation, because now you're in this perspective, this hyper focusing, where you're advocating what you believe is right and wrong. But when other perspectives clash, not clash. So basically what happens is that these people are never going to see eye to eye, and they're the sailboats going in different directions. Sure, they got along until the resources started running low. Now they're saying, well, we should take out these people, we should exile these people. So what is it you're going to do that's politically correct? Are you going to exile them? Or are you going to put them on the gallows? What are you going to do? What are you going to advocate for? Because I'm telling you, some of these people are going to stand there watching this person, whatever's happening to them, and they're going to say, that's wrong. Okay, now you got another advocator that isn't even personally involved in the situation. They're not the ones up on the gallows. They're not the ones being exiled. But through perspective of mind, the self decides at that point, with or without details, what they believe is right or wrong. So basically what I'm saying is, you let your anger get the best of you, people are going to notice what kind of attention you're trying to get, and they're automatically going to back off, because they're auto-programmed to not be that type of person. Don't get caught up with those type of people. But in your perspective, you're thinking, well, right and wrong, those are two powerful words. Two very powerful words, right and wrong. And with the morality of being human, well, morality is not really set in stone. And there are so many immoral things that have happened in the past and are going to happen in the future, that the only way we could solve every problem is setting in stone what should happen, rather than advocating. You set in stone, and then you're like, okay, this is my set perspective. But even that is a problem, because the details in every story changes. So you defend this person thinking they're in the right. The person that was actually in the right, presents new information that you say, oh man, I picked the wrong person. No, too late. Your line snapped, buddy. So within our anger, when we focus on one situation, our perspective is the most dangerous thing to our mind, because we can get sucked in, and it's literally like a black hole of mental energy saying, this is what we believe. Now these people are going to say, this is what I believe, and you're going to clash with them. That's inevitable. I mean, think of all the things we have in this world that people want: money, materialism, systems. They want their dopamine. They want all of this, and so does everybody else. But if you carry all that on your ship, it's going to bust your ship too. And what happens when you have to jump off your ship and you have all that stuff? Well, you're going to advocate for all the stuff you lost, and all the things that other people lost the same as you. You're going to advocate, become one with these people, and then you're just sailboats again. Once again, it always goes back to the sailboats. You're going to end up snapping that line. It only takes one person to snap that line. One person out of anger. And the problem with us is once we start advocating, we feed off other people's energy. They will reinforce the reason we believe we're in the right. So there's a lot of back and forth energies in the human mind that's constantly trying to change perspective. So it's actually beneficial for somebody that sticks to their perspectives, where whether the story changes or not, morality goes out the window. But we need that meaning, right? And that is the most, I wouldn't say dangerous all the time, but in our advocation, because it changes our perspective, we're less likely to let it go, because our emotions are telling us at the moment we're in the right, but other people are telling themselves they're right, and they're saying you're wrong, you're saying they're wrong. So it's like no matter what you do, you're going to end up swimming with the sharks.